Welcome back to episode 128 of the ATD Baseball Podcast. Yes, as you can tell, once again, if you're watching on YouTube, I am at Dodger Stadium. I am in the middle of a 9 game homestand, which is the longest one of the season to this point. There will be a 10 game homestand in June next month. So excited for that. But I'm in the middle of a 9 game homestand. Game 7 of 9 is tonight. I will touch on the Dodgers getting completely swept by the Angels, and I have some thoughts about that. Kind of a little disappointed, but again, it's still May, it's still early, but it that really bothered me over the weekend. But um, before we get into all that, though, same cast of characters as always, myself and Kyle. And before we get into everything that we want to discuss today, because we do have a lot, and Kyle's gonna probably have a whole monologue here at the top with the first topic. But before we get into that, Kyle, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Coming off a good weekend for the Yankees, which is always good. And I think it's just a little bit sweeter because the first topic we're going to talk about is Juan Soto making his long awaited return to the Bronx. But other than baseball, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing well. Like I said, in the middle of a homestand right now. Uh, don't like what I'm seeing out of the Dodgers, particularly the injured list seems to get larger and larger as the days go on. For a second, I thought we were going to lose Tony Gonsolin yesterday too, because he was dealing with like a nail or something, and he was bleeding from the bottom of his jersey. But again, I'll touch on that at the end. But I'm doing well. Like we're are past the last couple weeks, which have been hectic with the wedding and everything, and my team's getting knocked out of the playoffs. So right now, very calm, very the waters are very cool.
Hmm.
And also, I'll be celebrating a birthday this week.
Absolutely.
It's my last week of being 22, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So shout out to my coworkers too for we had a little celebration for the May birthdays last Friday. That was very nice of them. I appreciate it very much. But yeah, other than that, everything's well, man. Everything's going good. So maybe not in Dodgerland right now, but in my personal life, everything is going well. But um, we'll get off of that and just jump right into these topics. So, like we mentioned from the top, we're going to discuss Juan Soto, and then we got White Sox. Yeah, no, Red Sox. Excuse me, Red Sox City Connect jerseys. We got the Tigers and the Twins talking a little AL Central for you, and then we got Paul Skenes to Team USA being named, which we didn't even touch on that the last time we were here, which is kind of crazy. And then obviously I'll do my little Dodgers recap at the end, and then we'll call it a day. But um, first, we are going to jump right into the Juan Soto stuff. Uh, Kyle has he texted me too, so I really want to hear what this guy has to say now. He texted me that he has a take that he cannot wait to share, and I assume that it is on Juan Soto. But Kyle, the floor is yours. Let's talk Yankees Mets over the weekend.
Yeah, so this was obviously a date that I had marked on my calendar since the very beginning of the season. I mean, everybody wanted to see Juan Soto return to the Bronx with the Mets for the first time. And it did not disappoint for us Yankee fans. Soto ended up going 1 for 10 the entire series, which was not really even the topic of conversation here. It was mostly his how he was perceived by the fans and the comments that came out by Bob Clappage today of NewJersey.com. So I'll get into the way that the fans, I mean, it's exactly what you expected. The bleacher creatures turned their backs on him. He was booed like crazy, um, which I thought was exactly what you expected coming into Yankee Stadium. And so one point here that I want to make is the fact that Soto just looked sluggish. He did
Yeah,
not look himself the entire series. It wasn't. And listen, I talk a lot of shit about Juan Soto, but at the end of the day, he's a great player, and you want to see great players perform. And Soto's going to be in this series for the next 14 and a half years. This was his first one as a member of the Mets. This is a series that he needs to get used to. This is what he is going. This is his normal now. It's what he's gonna hear every time he goes to Yankee Stadium. Um, It's just like the Jose Altuve stuff. That's just it comes with the territory. So pretty much the main topic of this is going to be these comments that supposedly came out. Bob Clappish reported this. He is NewJersey.com. So people in the know say that Juan Soto wanted to be a Yankee. He chose the Yankees, but then his family wanted him to be a Met. So at the end of the day, he chose the Mets. Later in that article, I'm told they're concerned about Soto's lack of enthusiasm for the Mets. The only time Soto seemed happy this weekend was while he interacted with Judge, manager Aaron Boone, and second baseman Jazz Chisholm Jr. during batting practice. So supposedly that came from Mets hierarchy. Um, yeah, this it was definitely wild. I mean, it was obviously, and this also comes off of when he was supposed to be mic'd up. I believe game two, for a couple minutes. So he was dodging reporters. That was also the other report. Um, yeah, it's a boatload of drama, and I'm here for it. I absolutely love it. Um, it's crazy to hear these type of things come out because the way I look at it is, if he wanted to be a Yankee, he was gonna be a Yankee. The Yankees had the offer on the table; it was there, and nobody can say, "Well, the Mets offered more money." It Come on. At the end of the day, that 700 mark was reached. It was reached by both teams. If he really wanted to be the Yankees, still he would have been here. Um, it's hilarious to me. It is so funny that all this shit is coming out now. But yeah, Soto over the weekend just looked extremely flustered. He did not look himself. He didn't look locked in at the plate. He and specifically, I believe it was in the eighth inning. He didn't hustle down the line on a grounder that he could have been safe. DJ LeMahieu's getting towards the end of his career. He can't really make those plays anymore. And then Judge's ground rule double. I mean, it looked like he was just jogging over to right field where that he could have had a play on that. So overall, Soto just didn't look well. He didn't look himself, anything like that. And it's very interesting to hear these comments. And before I give you what I believe, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Just because these comments they mean something. If I'm a Met fan or if I'm a member of the Mets front office, I don't want to hear my superstar $765 million player saying these things about his former team.
Yeah, and if you're Juan Soto, I'll start here. I wouldn't want this stuff getting leaked out to the press either. That's what would bother me first. But um, I just it never, even in the moment when he signed with the Mets, it kind of didn't make sense. It didn't make
Hmm.
sense because it was like, okay, like all we had heard, except at the end of the World Series, is like, I love it here. I want to play here. Like, I love the fans. And then, listen, now we all assumed that the only reason that was going to keep Juan Soto from not coming back to the Yankees was money. And we believed all along that, hey, whichever team offers him the most money is where he's going to play. Well, guess what? The Mets offered him the most money, and obviously he took it. The thing that we were not prepared for was that the Yankees were going to be swimming in the same water as the Mets.
Hmm.
Because when we went into the offseason, we thought the Yankees were going to get completely blown out of the water with the Mets offer. But they were right on the doorstep. They were right on the doorstep, and yeah, if you're Mets front office, if you're Steve Cohen, if you're the GM that's not popping in my mind right now, I would be a little frustrated. I don't think I don't think this is necessary yet, but I would kind of want to have a meeting and a sit down with Soto again. Like, hey, like, are you sure? Like, this is where you want to be? Because we have committed not only a lot of money to you, but you know, we believe that you're the next. You can be the all-time great Mets player that we know you can be. Um, in the first year of this contract. So the thing, it's kind of, yeah. If you're, and I can't even imagine how Met fans feel. You know, not only did Juan Soto completely unperform in at Yankee Stadium, but he hasn't. gotten off to the great start like he has in years past. And you mentioned it right at the beginning. He looks very sluggish. Very sluggish. You know, you mentioned this is going to be his life in the Bronx for the next 14 years. Are we sure he's even going to get to 10? The way
Yeah.
he looked over the weekend, are we sure? Because I don't know. But um, listen, he's still going to perform. At the end of the year, he's going to be putting up great numbers. I know he is. But yeah, it was already a bad weekend enough with the Mets, losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, and Pete Alonso messed it up in the eighth inning at the end there, and it just unraveled from there. Bellinger grand slam and everything, but and then you start to hear this that hey, maybe Juan Soto doesn't want to even be on your team,
Hmm.
and again, this just I feel for Met fans as I've gotten older. I really do. The Mets are gonna Met, and when Juan Soto signed that mega contract in December of last year, I think a lot of us are saying, you know what, it would be very Metsy if somehow Juan Soto either A doesn't live up to the contract, stops producing the same numbers like he did in San Diego, New York, and in Washington, or two, a story like this would come out where he doesn't even want to be here. He doesn't
Yep.
even want to be in Queens. He wish he had stayed in the Bronx. But that's my little 2 cents about it. It sucks, but man, like if you're Soto, the best way to shut everybody up is just perform. If
Hmm.
you want to shut up the media, if you want to shut up Met fans that are maybe starting to turn against you a little bit or starting to question you, if you want to shut up these Yankee fans that had a field day with you over the weekend, just start performing better. Start
Hmm.
performing better, like you're supposed to. Because I forget what the exact number was. Was it 765 or something
I
like
believe
that?
it was, yeah.
He's not playing like it right now, and
No.
that's a problem. Now, the good thing is the Mets are still very good, and they have a
Hmm.
good record. I think it would be a lot worse if the Mets were struggling and Soto was struggling. But the thing that is keeping this kind of somewhat at bay is that the Mets have gotten off to a good start.
Hmm.
But again, if you're Juan Soto, the easiest thing you can do is to shut everybody up. Is just to start performing like we know you can.
Yep.
To me, that's what it comes down to. If he's not going to do it, then this is going to be a lingering story all season long, and it's going to get annoying. And you've already seen it a little bit over this weekend. You can tell Soto's a little annoyed.
Yep. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And I have one little thing yet, and then we can move on. But one of the biggest things about this weekend that I took away was I really didn't even care about the fact of the results of these games because as soon as this news dropped, man, I was eating it up. I loved it, and I really kind of relate. Actually, my mind went straight to you over this past weekend because I started feeling how you feel about the Angels.
Right,
So it started like I've always been not really like I never root for the Mets, but I always like fell for them. They play in the same city. Um, they're just the Mets. Derek Jeter said it perfectly. But at the end of the day, now I'm starting to feel a little bit of hatred towards this team. It is starting to get to that point where this rivalry weekend is really living up to the name. I feel a little bit of that hate for the Mets now. They're kind of like a Blue Jays to me now. That's just how I feel, and I kind of related to you how you feel about the Angels. But the biggest thing here that I just don't understand with Soto is he got everything he wanted.
right,
Everything. And it wasn't even the money that I'm talking about here. He got the suite. He got the jet. He got all of these perks for his family. And now, what more could you want, man? All of these, like, with these comments, it's just, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me at all. And one of the big things for me now looking into this is, and this kind of goes into my hot take here. I am going to say this on record, and I think it's very similar to what the Red Sox are going through right now. And if this continues, if I hear one more report The Mets need to trade him.
Whoa,
Trade him.
whoa.
Trade him. And I say that because imagine the haul that you could get for Juan Soto. It's a Rafi Devers situation. So we know what Rafi Devers and Juan Soto can produce. We know what type of players they are.
But do the
Soto
Mets want to take that PR hit though? Do they want to deal with that
does
and the
it.
backlash from their fans and all the other 29 fan bases clowning them? Do they want to do
I
that again?
I think if it's Steve Cohen at the helm, I think he can redeem himself very quickly because Steve Cohen has showed just now, just this offseason, that he is willing to pour every ounce of money, Dodger type money, into this team to make sure it produces. Now, it's not his fault that Juan Soto has all this drama coming with him.
Right,
He gave Soto everything he wanted. So, in my opinion, the way I look at this is Soto's going to produce. Everybody knows what he is. All 29 other teams are going to be banging on that Mets door to try to get a piece of Juan Soto, if that ever came true. I look at it this way: the haul that you could get, the amount of prospects, the amount of money, just international pool money for free agent for international free agents. You could get an absolute haul. Yeah, you're probably going to have to eat some of that money, absolutely. But it's Steve Cohen. This is the type of guy who has shown time and time again that, yo, no matter what goes on and no matter what the hell we hear from Mets fans, I care about this team and I'm going to pour every ounce of money that I possibly can into this team to put a winning product on the field. And he has done that. That is the one thing I will give Steve Cohen. He's still willing to spend money even after giving Soto that contract. The way I look at it, do you want to be screwed for 10 plus years of this Soto drama of him? And maybe I'm overreacting, whatever. But in this moment, this is how I feel, given how many, and this isn't the first report either.
right.
There was one earlier in the season where Soto had allegedly said that it was hard to live up to that contract. And he said it was harder not having Judge hitting behind him. He's not getting as many pitches. His walks have been up this year, and I mean that's just Soto. But overall, of grand scheme of things, of what I'm talking about is the drama that's coming with him. You give one player everything and more that he wanted, and this is the type of shit that you're getting from the media. I do you really want to put up with that headache for this long? I don't know. The way I look at this, though, and my biggest takeaway from this, I was pissed when the Yankees let Soto walk. I was pissed. And I was the biggest Soto fan last year. I'll admit it. But the Yankees dodged a bullet here, in my opinion. I think
Did
they
they
did.
though? Because I think you wouldn't hear these reports if he was still in the Yankees.
I don't think I don't think you would, but the way that I'm looking at this is maybe the Yankees didn't throw in a sweep for the family. Maybe the Yankees didn't do any of that because I mean they didn't do it for Judge, and they put
No,
Judge on this pedestal. They didn't do it for Jeter. I mean, yeah, those two players probably didn't demand that type of stuff or the extras that come along with the mega deal. But I don't know. Looking back on this now, yeah, the Yankees aren't exactly where I want them, but they did show a lot to me over the weekend. They took 2 out of 3, which could have been a sweep. Game two, if Jason Dominguez was not blocking Cody Bellinger's clear path to the base and let Bellinger get ahead of steam before throwing the ball to home plate, they could have won that game. But this team showed me a lot over the weekend. Goldschmidt is hitting at a unbelievable clip. Bellinger
as the
has been on
leadoff guy, by the way.
absolutely. Bellinger has had his career best 13 game stretch, and that's including his years with the Dodgers. And on top of all of this, you're getting production out of Trent Grisham, the guy who was a throw in to the Juan Soto deal. I
Yep.
don't know. The Yankees have been showing me a lot this year, and the fact that they were able to allocate that money to a bunch of different players to basically be at the same level as the Mets, or I mean they're up there with the Dodgers too. I'm not saying that they're better than the Dodgers, but record wise, we're sitting good right now. I like where we're at. I want them to be better, but they showed me a lot over the weekend. I don't have many complaints. So, as a
And Aaron
nutshell,
Judge is hitting 400.
which is ridiculous. It's crazy. So, and Max Fried is off to an unbelievable
Cy Young
start.
candidate.
He is a absolute Cy Young candidate, and yeah, they showed me a lot over the weekend. But that's where I'm at right now with Soto, man. If I was Steve Cohen, I would hate to be hearing this shit. After, like, it's kind of a slap to the face. You mean to tell me that I took you away from our crosstown rival? We've been the laughing stock for years in this city, and we give you everything plus more that you want, and you're now there's reports coming out that you want to be back over there. Like, Cohen's the type of guy to pull the plug. I feel that Cohen, if it came down to it and if absolutely necessary, he'd be fielding offers for sure.
That's gonna be something to keep an eye on as these next couple months go on. Yeah, and again, Steve Cohen has done a great job of like quote draining the swamp,
Yeah.
getting the Wilpons out of the Mets' taste in their mouths. From all those bad years, and then yeah, exactly. And then here comes Soto with all his bags and stuff, and now you're questioning if he even wants to be there. It's fascinating. I never would have in a million years would have thought of trying to trade him, but I don't know. To me, I'm like, hey, you know what? We got him for 15 years. Too bad. You wanted nobody told you to come here.
Hmm.
You could have stayed in New York with the Yankees, but you took the bet. You took the biggest offer.
Yep.
So Soto doesn't exactly come off clean. Doesn't get off clean here either. So,
Mm-mm.
but again, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But very interesting. That was good. Crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, City Connects, Red Sox. I'll give my initial thoughts. Love them. Absolutely love them. I I got so used to the other ones because number one, they were actually performing really well in them. I think every time they wore them for a stretch, like 2 years ago, they won like 10 straight in a row or something like that. But this screams not just the Red Sox, but this just screams Fenway Park. They're paying
Hmm.
homage, of course, to the Green Monster in left field. To me, I love it. I love it. You're taking an icon part of the stadium and you're making them into a uniform. They hit it right on the head with the pants, right on the head with the jersey. I even like the hats. Is it out of the ordinary with their color scheme? Yes. The Red Sox do not wear green. The only green that they have is Celtic green. Ugh. But that again, they're not Celtics, Red Sox, two different colors. But the only other thing that is green is that damn green monster. And to me, I think they hit it on the head. Uh, it says Red Sox. They didn't try to do too much with it. It's nice and plain, which is fine. But to me, they got it right with these. They got it right with these to me. I definitely could see a lot of Red Sox fans. Maybe not the old time, the purists that only wear just the regular home and away stuff. But I could definitely see a lot of young Red Sox fans getting that jersey because it
Oh yeah.
pays homage to one of the most uh, iconic walls, not just in baseball but in sports. The Green Monster. To me, I think they hit it right on the head.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this is going to be quick and clean. Um, I love them too. I hate to admit it, but I do. I love these much better than the yellow and blue ones. I will say, I think the biggest takeaway for me is you're taking a new jersey and making it look old, in my opinion. You're making it look like an instant
Right.
classic in sports jerseys. And this is the way I wanted them to go first go around. Absolutely beautiful jerseys. They're so clean, they're simple, but they speak so much louder than what they look like, is what I'm trying to say. Um, I'm giving these, I'd say, 8.5 out of 10. I think these are good.
Yep. I agree with that. That's a solid rating right there. I go 8 out of 10 also. Very nice. Keep things moving here just because I'm kind of almost getting to that point against time. Not we're not there yet, but almost. Uh,
Mhm.
we're gonna touch the AL Central. How about the Tigers having the most wins in the American League to this point, as we're about a quarter of the way done with the season already? And then how about the Minnesota Twins? going on a 13-game winning streak. I believe it got snapped yesterday, but
Mhm.
they got off to an abysmal start, and it didn't look like there was much direction going with the Twins. And then they rattle off 13 wins. I would personally like to take credit for the 13 game winning streak for the Minnesota Twins because my brother and I were just there 2 weeks ago to Target Field on a Tuesday night against the Baltimore Orioles. Now I don't know where their winning streak was at that point. I believe it was still like maybe 3 or 2 at that point, but uh, I would like to take credit for helping getting the Minnesota Twins back on track. But um, which is I don't want to say which is more surprising because I think it is the Twins. I think we thought the Tigers would be okay, pretty good this year, but um, just how about the American League Central making some noise this year? How about it? They're not just this team that is, they're gonna finish. Like again, it's still extremely early, but we look at the AL Central. That's like, all right, cool. That's the team that only wins 83 games in the division. But no, like the Tigers are on pace, I believe, for over 90 wins this year. And looking the way this American League is going right now, if they keep this up, they can have one of those two buys in the American League. So shout out to
Mhm.
the American League Central, making some noise this year to start the year.
Absolutely. And obviously, I don't have to speak much on the Tigers. They did just lose Reese Olson, so I'm very interested to see how that looks. But overall, with the Tigers, it's very plain and simple. I picked them to win the World Series. I am not shocked at all. Or I'm sorry, did I? No, I picked the Braves, but
You
I
picked the
did.
Braves. You
Yeah,
picked the.
I picked
I think
them.
did you pick the Tigers to get there? I think yeah, you did.
I did. Yes, they are my AL pick for the World Series.
Don't back
AL
out on the
pitching.
Braves. We haven't forgotten.
Yeah, yeah. They hold a 5 game lead right now in the American League Central, which is the largest in all of baseball, except for the AL East, which the Yankees hold a 5 game lead as well. Um, the Twins, though, this is kind of the whole point of the this conversation, in my opinion. The Twins look good, and they
Yes, they
came
do.
out of nowhere. They really did, and the fact that they are now in second place in the AL Central with 5 games behind, I think, is a miracle from where they started at the beginning of the year. So shout out to the Twins. Their pitching staff's holding it down, their bullpen's holding it down, and the offense is clicking on all cylinders. So good for them, man. Seriously, this was a team that I think I had them finishing fourth in this division. But um, no,
I think I did
good
too.
for them. Yeah, good for them. It's really good to see the Twins and their story. They look good, man. They do, and happy for them. I really
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll see. Keep an eye on that. But again, so Minnesota, you're welcome. You're
am.
welcome for helping bringing the Twins back to life in 2025. You're very welcome. Um, all right, this is the big one. Paul Skenes, welcome to Team USA for the World Baseball Classic uh, next year. That was officially announced on Tuesday. Of course, the day after we record the podcast is when they come out with the announcement.
Yep.
So, but um, one of the biggest problems, and here I go, I'm going to put on my Team USA GM hat again, like I did a couple weeks ago. The biggest problem, or the biggest weakness on the Team USA team in 2023 at the WBC was their starting pitching. Now they
Absolutely.
had a bunch of guys that were supposed to do it. It was supposed to be Kershaw, Logan Webb. I forget a couple other guys, but again, no disrespect to the guys that were on that team because we did get to the championship game. But you got by the end of it, you had Adam Wainwright was basically your ace of that staff. You had Kyle Freeland, a young guy. You had Brady Singer, and you had Lance Lynn. Like that's for Team USA, that's not good enough. It's not good enough with the guy, especially with the guys that have now made their major league debuts in the last since that WBC. And I like that Mark DeRosa, manager of Team USA, and everybody else was in agreement that they needed better starting pitching in 2026, and they got the right guy to lead. I assume he will be um, the ace of that staff, Paul Skeens. Now, if you're Mark DeRosa, I understand he has obligations with the Pirates, which, let's be honest, they're not going anywhere this year, anyways. You got to make sure that they wrap him in bubble wrap every time he comes off that mound. Because I know Mark DeRosa is probably holding his breath every time that he's going out there to pitch. Because I know he cannot wait to use him next March. I understand there's a pitching limit on these. You can't go out there and throw 100 pitches in these tournament, but Team USA is got the right slam dunk starting pitcher to start. I don't obviously we don't know what the rest of the starting pitching rotation is going to look like, but getting Paul Skenes is a perfect step in the right direction. And again, you got to you get these big names in there now, and it can inspire other guys like, hey, I want to be a part of that. I couldn't do it in 2023. Now I want to be a part of it. Skeens is a part of it. Judge is a part of it. Sky's the limit now with this team, to be honest with you. They got the captain. I hate to admit it. They got their captain now, Aaron Judge, and now they got their ace in Paul Skeens. Now they have to fill out the rest of the roster. So great start. Great start.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for personal use, I am going to clip what you just said about Aaron Judge. But
Captain America apparently now.
oh, absolutely. Love to see it. But anyway, yeah, no, Paul Skeens at the top of this rotation, absolutely beautiful. I wasn't necessarily a biggest fan of him last year with the whole All Star game stuff
No,
that
you
we
were
talked.
not.
However, now I'll admit I was wrong. Paul Skeens is that guy, and he's the guy who I circled for Team USA. Now, if you can give me a rest of the staff that looks, you throw Tarek Skubal in there, you throw Max Free, you throw Blake Snell, Zach Wheeler.
Blake Snell, Clayton Kershaw. You got an entire Dodgers rotation, not including Yamamoto, Sasaki, and Otani. You could take everyone else. No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you start building a rotation like that, and then you throw guys like Harper, Betts. At this point, I'd throw Goldschmidt back in there. But you throw those type of guys into the lineup too. The sky is truly the limit for this Team USA team, and I cannot express how excited that I am for this upcoming World Baseball Classic. If the Yankees didn't still have any as much question marks as they do, I'd be looking forward to the World Series, but don't know about that. So no, the WBC, I'm totally excited for it. I can't wait for it, and the Paul Skeens news really just drove that even further. So really excited for that, and I can't wait to see him pitch in that Team USA jersey.
And we're not going to say it because we were chose not to, but we do know a couple other players that will be joining Team USA.
Yes,
And there's three guys, and they're pretty good name, pretty household names. Not
yep,
going to say it because we're not supposed to. I'll get my head cut off. But um, just look out for that. I think
absolutely,
I think the U.S. baseball fans are going to be very happy with the three players that are going to get named. Hopefully soon. I don't know exactly when, but
yeah.
I think Team USA they're going to be the favorites. I think they're going to be the favorites coming into next year more than they were. I think in 2023.
Absolutely. I think I think the lineup's going to be well rounded, and I think that pitching staff's going to really put them over the edge. Exactly how you said. When we saw it in person, that pitching staff was not all that. So really excited for this.
When Tanner Scott and Blake Trinan are closing out the games next year, I can't wait to see that also.
Absolutely.
All right, last thing, and then we'll get out of here. The Dodgers. So, I put out a video yesterday about CT3 getting DFA'd, and I'll touch on them a little bit. And then I saw into the comments, you got any comments about the Dodgers getting swept by the Angels over the weekend? All right, motherfucker. There's your comments right here. Um, listen, you know, nah, I'll say it. I don't like losing to the Angels.
Yeah.
I don't like losing to the B team in Southern California. I don't. I don't like losing to a team that tries to associate, well, really their owner tries to associate themselves with Los Angeles when they're 40 miles away from downtown. Don't like to lose to them. But, you know, again, the Dodgers have struggled beating the Angels the last couple of years. Um, this was kind of last couple of years they played like two games though. They would play two here and two in Anaheim, but this year they're playing six. Um, the Dodgers have struggled to get the Angels. And listen, I get it for the Angels. You know, you're coming in the Dodger Stadium, oh, the defending champs, the big bad Dodgers, and you know the Angels. Of course, what they did, everybody can hit the ball. But then they're gonna go to Sacramento. They're gonna get swept or lose 2 out of 3, and they're gonna look like normal how they should be running a bad franchise. But for one weekend, they were able to look pretty good. And listen, Dodger pitching did not help on that either, and that's been the big problem. There is a shit ton of guys on the injured list, and unfortunately, Kirby Yates was added to that over the weekend. Just pitching, man. That's the big problem. We got our guys back in the lineup. Tommy Edman came back yesterday, and Teoscar Hernandez got called up again today, so he'll be back. But all this pitching depth that we had at the beginning of the season, it's all gone now. All gone, which is crazy. You know, there was a lot of people in baseball, including myself, when they got Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. It was like, wow, that's a luxury. Little did we know that now it's a necessity because of all these guys that are going down left and right. And just listen, obviously, I believe they're going to get most of these guys back. I know I just saw Blake Snell starting to throw a little bit earlier. Blake trying throwing again today, which that's good. But we need starters, man. We need starters, and I really don't want to have to go. I really don't want to have to trade for another starter at the deadline again. But the way it's going, we might have to do that again because there's just so many injuries, and honestly, it's getting annoying. It's really getting frustrating. And I was telling myself that okay, I want to see some of the rotation back by the Yankee series, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Now I don't even know if that's going to be the case. I don't know. It's just Yamamoto and a bunch of other guys. That's what it is right now, you know. But hopefully these guys can get back healthy. The pitchers, the lineup is okay. It's fine. They struggled a little bit over the weekend. Otani, I didn't like that he was the last out on like 2 of the games. The Angels Twitter had a field day with that yesterday when he struck out to end the game. You know, and it was just I just don't like losing to the Angels. I don't. I really don't. But because then their fans have nothing else to cheer for and they're miserable. This was like their World Series and they treated it like it over the weekend. Um, but again, it's still early. The Dodgers are still a game in front of San Diego and Arizona, which we start a big 3-game series against them tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. We split the 4 games with them in Arizona last weekend, so I'm excited to see how it goes. Somebody will have to win this series starting tonight, so I'm excited for that. And yeah, um, before I wrap this up, too, I just want to say thank you for everything, Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes. This was a rough week. Not only did the Dodgers get swept, and they only took 2 out of 3 from the A's, but they also lost 2 guys that have been a part of this organization for a long time. Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor. You know, it was only a matter of time with both of those guys. Like I said, you weren't getting much out of Austin Barnes anymore as the backup catcher, and for a guy who does so little now, paying him $3 million to be your backup catcher, not good, unacceptable. And then you had Dalton Rushing, which I'm excited. I've been excited for him for a while, and I'm glad he was finally able to get called up. He has been performing his ass off in AAA in Oklahoma City, and he's been blocked by Austin Barnes for like a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Now he's finally getting a chance to shine, and so far he's done okay. And with Chris Taylor, he hasn't hit well in like 3 years. You know, it, we knew when the Dodgers re-signed him in 2021 that he probably doesn't make it to the end of the contract, and he's probably not going to be performing well by the end of that contract. And we were right, but we didn't think it was going to be that quickly. It seems like as soon as he got the bread, the play really began to slip. Really began to slip. And again, they brought in Hae-Sung Kim. They finally called him up, and he's been lightning in a bottle so far. And he's been doing a lot of the things they've been asking Chris Taylor to do for years. So, again, it sucks because they were 2 lifelong Dodgers. They were a part of 2 championship teams in 2020 and 2024. Um, but that's just part of baseball, man. That's part of the business. It sucks, but we have to start getting these guys out of here and start bringing in some new blood. Start bringing in the younger guys, the Haesung Kims, the Dalton Rushings, guys like that. And I think it was definitely a shock for everybody for Austin Barnes, but Chris Taylor you could see coming for a couple of years now. I just I'm surprised how quickly they did it with both of them. Dodgers are not screwing around here. They're not screwing around here. You know, they could easily live off of the nostalgia of everybody, which I mean they probably been doing that with Kershaw for like 2 years now. But again, you had to move on. It sucks, but it's a business. It's part of the game, and I wish them nothing but the best. They were two great Dodgers, and they will be remembered for a long time. And definitely, whenever, in 10, 15 years, or even 5 years, when we have these reunions, the World Series reunions here at Dodger Stadium, they will get a big ovation, especially Chris Taylor, because he had a lot of big postseason moments. I put out my top five earlier today. You know, a leadoff home run in the World Series. A big time catch off of Yelich in Game 7 of the NLCS, a walk-off home run against the Cardinals, a three-home run game against the Braves in the NLCS, which I was in the building for, and being named NLCS MVP. So many great moments for Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes that they will be remembered in Dodger lore forever. Obviously, they're not going to get their numbers retired here. They're not going to the Hall of Fame or anything like that, but they are great Dodgers, and they will be remembered for a long time. And I don't want that to go unnoticed. So there's my little Dodger update, and hopefully they can get their shit together and get back on track tonight against a Diamondback team, like I said, that I think is going to be pretty good. So there's your little Dodger update for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's going to do it for episode 128.
Yeah, I think so. One last little thing
Yes.
here. I did want to just point this out. We hit 27,000 on Instagram.
Yes.
So thank you guys very much. We truly do appreciate it more than you guys will ever know. If you guys are new here, we post at least 3 times a day. We're constantly pushing out content. Yeah, if you guys want to give us a follow, we greatly appreciate it, and we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate the ones who have been here for the entire ride. So
Absolutely.
this ride is going to continue to go, and we appreciate every step of the way. So thank you guys, truly.
Perfect. That's a perfect way to end it. All right. Well, we'll see you in a week, and I'll be back at my little place again. Adios.